It's a sunny and beautiful day across the metro, so what a perfect time to convene as the Blue Line Extension CMC meeting. I'm Charlie Zelli, Chair, and as we always do, let's go around the room and introduce ourselves, starting with.
Me? Okay, yeah. Irene Fernando, Hennepin County Board Chair.
Hi, Ely Farhad on behalf of Commissioner Green.
Rich Netta Parker on behalf of Jeff Lundy.
Dan Dorr, Co-Chair, Business Advisory Committee.
Mike Opatz, City of Maple Grove. I'm the Transit Administrator for Maple Grove Transit and sitting in for our Mayor, Mark Steffensen.
Leslie Kindaris, General Manager of Metro Transit.
Charles Rucker, Commissioner, Minneapolis Park and Rec.
I think it's you.
Julie Deschler, City of Crystal Mayor, new mayor.
Therese Kaiser, City Coastal Council.
Jonathan Hansen, Co-Chair, Community Advisory Committee.
Suzanne Sabatka, Policy Director to Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry.
Yes, Inazman Met Council, District 7.
Aaron Wagner, I'm on the Robbinsdale City Council.
Amanda Zhang, Brooklyn Park City Council.
Reva Chambliss, Met Council, District 2.
Well, as you probably ascertained already, we have some new faces, so I really welcome those that are joining the CMC either as members or alternates. My notes show that Robbinsdale, we have Councilmember Aaron Wagner as a full-fledged representative here, so I'm pleased to see you. Robbinsdale's had a long history with your former mayor and now new mayor, Brad Sutton. He's going to be serving as the alternate, but welcome, Aaron, to be here. And Crystal, Mayor Julie Dasher will be our representative, so congratulations, Julie. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
It's great to see you here. And Councilmember Teresa Kaiser will be serving as the alternate for Crystal. And in Brooklyn Park, Mayor Hollis Winston, who's no stranger to us here, he'll continue as the CMC representative, and then Amanda Cheng Yong, welcome, will be serving as our alternate, so good to see you here too. And then Charles Rucker, who's introduced himself, hey Charles, is our new representative for the Minneapolis Park Board. And Becca Thompson, who is no stranger to this committee, will be serving as the alternate. And then on some of our advisory committees, Jonathan Hansen, co-chair of the CMC, will continue as representative, and then Chair Don Chambers will also then serve as the alternate. So with that, my normal housekeeping, which is to say these mics are live. If you haven't noticed, so they are transmitting. We are streaming for members of the public, and you have and members of the public who have questions. Feel free to email our Nkongo. That's Nkongo Gazulo, and you can always see whatever information you want, including the handouts, the presentations, at the project website, which is the Blue Line EXT. That's just one word, bluelineext.org. Until any questions until February 21st will be posted. Before we dive into the agenda today, I just want to take a moment to highlight that whatever you read in the news or whatever radio you're listening to or whatever person you run into the street, just know that this project is still advancing ahead at a full speed as we can muster, and we continue to collaborate with the Federal Transit Administration. Now, having said that, we certainly are watching every guidance and every as we adjust whatever we need to be doing, but it is a project until it's not, and that's how we always say it. And I would welcome Commissioner, if you have any comments to say on the status of this project.
The status of it, I can tell you my commitments to this project.
There you go.
We have been working for literally decades collectively to get to this place. The commitments that are embedded in this project is really centered on resident outcomes and direct services and access to resources for residents. So you'll hear a lot about timing. You'll hear a lot from me over the last few years, especially. We've been working even more prominently to advance the type of project that meets residents' needs today, but far more importantly, builds a future that generations are very proud of and that want to remain to live, work, and play here. So it has been a wonderful partnership with Met Council and with the municipalities. And I love the cued music, and so I'll hand it back to Chair Zelli. But I can't thank everybody enough. To have municipal consent last year, all cities approved, 87% of the elected officials voted in favor of it, which is the highest percentage that any project has ever received. And so the commitment is unwavering. Residents deserve access, and we are here to try to deliver that.
Thank you. And speaking of partnerships, it is really a great honor as chair that occasionally I call on Irene unprompted and know that there's a great confident message that you'll be giving.
I'd love to
Thank
tell you
you.
the status, you know.
One other project, quick update, is that we have announced internally, and I want to make sure everybody knows, we have a project director who has been named, who will be joining not for maybe 60 days or so, but she has a small project in the East Metro she's finishing, Alicia Vapp, who has had a history with the Met Transit for many years, worked on the Green Line, worked on, and has been managing the Gold Line, which is opening on May 22nd. That's Woodbury to Union Depot, and then in a couple of years all the way to Minneapolis. But she's been a really great job there. That project is always good to say on time, on budget, but also has really been well received. So we're very fortunate to keep Alicia and then many other talented folks, including our folks who have already been managing this project for years, but we certainly dwell upon not just Gold Line, but the Green Line extension talent as well. So it's great that we had a time at Metro Council where you would have one project for 10 years and then think about another one for another 10 years. And we're opening 3 transitways this year, and we have multiple projects. And I dare say this year, this is why, again, the Blue Line is important, is that we're not just building a project, we're building a network. And the network to get around the entire metro, and so that's so really, really important. So today, with the Blue Line extension, we're going to get updates on our environmental process, some really important discussion on the design, talk a little bit about where we stand on schedule. And then also, just as a reminder, we actually are going through a period of time where we're not having public testimony because we have a lot of public input along the way and through the environmental process, but we don't want to shirk public interest and public comment, but we feel like we want to make sure we have time for our council here because we often run out of valuable time. With that, we have minutes from our meeting on December 19th that were sent out in advance, and if there's any edits or questions, we're open to hearing them. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Great. All right. Then I will move on to our Community and Business Advisory Committee reports. Dan, do you have
Sure.
something? Great.
There wasn't too much debate or discussion about what we're about to see here when we met. I think there was curiosity about the station designs, and folks were looking forward to continued dialogue between residents, organization leaders, business leaders, and elected officials. So kind of sums it.
Great. And is Jonathan? Jonathan's not here. Oh, Jonathan, there you are. Yeah. Anything that you want to add?
Yeah, at the CAC, we had a good presentation from the city of Minneapolis about stationary planning and redevelopment of parcels. So then, yeah, definitely interested in the information that.
Okay, we'll get into the substance later. Great. Well, thank you both, and I appreciate your serving, continuing to serve as chairs. Then moving on to our Anti-Displacement Community Prosperity Program. And Ricardo, it's always good to see you. I know that we've committed to having a standing item on these meetings to hear how things are going, so
Sure.
welcome.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. So we were here last in December, and since we've done a lot of work, a lot of progress with anti-displacement implementation, specifically on the area of the program and funding committee that we have, where we are working hard to set some priorities on how the dollars should be allocated. You should have a handout with you there, so just please do make sure to check it out. But basically, I guess, the biggest update that we can share today is that land acquisition is quickly becoming the top priority for us to allocate dollars for anti-displacement purposes. We know that if we move to acquire land as soon as possible, that investment will see multiplied later down the road. And we also had a lot of discussions around how can we prove our impact with the dollars that we have, which are little amount of dollars, right? So again, community-led, community center continues to be in the room. These committees are composed of board members, non-board members, the Land Bank Institute is there, other important players are helping guide the conversation. We don't really yet have defined the specific timing on when these RFPs for dollars are gonna go out, but we are talking about the processes in which these RFPs are gonna move. We've discussed including community members in the review process, tapping into community experts to help us ensure that the funding goes to places where the impact will be able to be demonstrated. And without a doubt, collaboration right now is primordial. So I do think that there is an ask there on the second page of the handout where we invite you to join us in, this prioritization of land acquisition for anti-displacement purposes. Could you come to these meetings and provide insights on any land that you believe could be a good demonstration project or something that you want to kind of bring energy towards? That's really cool to see that the board space is becoming a place of collaboration and cross-pollination. And then lastly, that we want the board to be community-led and centered through and through. So we've adopted bylaws, and we recently elected a selection committee that will be reviewing applications for new people to join the board when that's ready to happen. So our coalition has been carrying a lot of the work. There's a lot of meetings, but we feel very proud of doing this work, especially now more than ever. This initiative it's something, right, that we're kind of also ourselves wondering where do we shine and where do we adapt to the moment, right? So yesterday we went to the Capitol to, really share our sentiment on why this project is important. And without a doubt, anti-displacement makes everything a huge difference, right, for the communities that were able to show up in support of the project yesterday, because there's a lot of people who don't want to see this happen. So anyways, so that's, I guess, some of the stuff that we've been doing. And if you have any questions, I can try and answer them. And if not, then I can get back to you later, so.
Great, thanks, Ricardo. Any questions, Ricardo? Yeah, go ahead, Reva.
Just a comment. I haven't been to your meetings, but I really appreciate having the reports. I'm really glad to see that you had so many people testifying on behalf of this project. I did see that the mayor of Brooklyn Park also testified in favor of the project and not delaying the project. And I also like seeing the investment of community capacity because readiness is so important to take advantage of opportunities.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, and I especially love hearing that the meetings themselves become a center for collaboration and learning, and the process itself should be important as not just the results of grants or the work. So thank you again for the work you're doing, Ricardo.
Thank you all. All right.
Thank you. All right, so we're moving on to hear from Kelsey Young as for our environmental update. Welcome.
Chair, committee members. Brief environmental update for this month as we continue to develop the supplemental final environmental impact statement. We are still on track to publish that document next summer. We are continuing to work with our federal partner, the Federal Transit Administration, to navigate changing federal policy updates that relate to our environmental document, changes in related to executive orders and other regulations that we need to follow related to our environmental document. So seeking their guidance and advice on how we should navigate those changes. As we partner with the Federal Transit Administration, we are also continuing that coordination at the local level with our project partners to ensure that the project continues to be a success for the local communities in the corridor in light of those changing federal policies that relate to the project. So continuing our good work at the local level as well. We look forward to sharing more information about that as we learn more from the FTA and as we go along in our development of the supplemental final environmental impact statement. And later in the presentation today, we will talk about the Lowry Station area and just wanting to note and ground us that we do have Section 4F steps ahead of us still that we plan to coordinate with both FTA and our local partners as the spring continues and ahead of supplemental final EIS publication next summer. So very brief updates here. Happy to take questions.
Any questions from Kelsey on the environmental process? I know we're in the middle of it, so keep smiling. That's the point. Well, here. Yeah, okay, good. Thanks. Well, if there's no other questions, then welcome, Candy from the Blue Line Coalition. Good to see you. We're actually going to hear a design update from Nick Landwehr, Ryan Kozner, and Kelsey. If you haven't been listening to the radio, reading the newspaper, or attending park board meetings, you probably have heard from friends that there's one particular a station design that has been under deep consideration, and we'll have a chance to hear about it and talk about it. Nick.
So thank you, Chair. I'm going to first talk a little bit about what's behind the curtain, how we are developing and managing our design process, and then Kelsey and Ryan will follow after me here. Okay. So just a little bit of a direction where we're going, how we're managing and scheduling the project. So we are advancing now from our 30%, our municipal consent plans to 60% design package with the project. So we're looking at one big civil package for the whole alignment, and how do we bite off into chunks that are easily consumable with all our partners. So we have broken up the alignment into packages that are geographical by each city. So we'll have 4 packages, one for each city along the alignment. And we've actually taken Lowry because of the discussions that happened there and brought it out as its own package so we can manage that timeline and design. So within each one of these 4 packages, there's 4 volumes of information in that package. So that starts with typical sections, but it looks at roadway work, track work, bridge work, retaining walls, structures like that, utilities, drainage. So a lot of information that's going into each one of these volumes. And just to characterize, this package will be thousands of sheets of plans that will be going out to bid that we're putting together. So in the plans, this is just a not very detailed graphic here, but it's a typical plan sheet. And this one pertains to roadway plans in Brooklyn Park. And what we really want to communicate is the plans as they're coming out. We've had a lot of feedback, a lot of work with our design resolution teams along each city, and we're filling in a lot more information. So we're going from what were roll plots in 30% and municipal consent that were reviewed to more of a three-dimensional where we're stacking up and we're really building the layers on this cake. So, so significantly more information is going in these as we've gotten more information and more coordination going on. How we set this up is each plan sheet represents a specific area, and this really shows, about a block long of area next to the Brooklyn Boulevard station. And we've set it up so each of those 12 volumes, you should be able to, a contractor or somebody can pull those in and overlay them on and see everything that's going on and how it coordinates. Each of these, how we're setting up these plans now are so as we're building this up, this will carry forward this format into our construction documents. So this will take us to 90% design plans and our construction documents, and this is what will be bid on and the project will be built off of. So just want to make a note that these are very detailed, very technical drawings for public meetings and just a little bit better ease of being able to consume it. We will still have the roll plots that are colored, so we can bring those out to public meetings and easily communicate with folks.
So can I just stop there for a minute? And I love, some of my best friends are engineers. That's great. I appreciate that. But in terms of public meetings and the rest of us, it's not just color, but they will be kind of more easily understood as to kind of, for us laymen folks.
Mr. Chair, that is the
Okay,
intent
good.
of the roll plots. Are probably a little bit more consumable for the layperson and not, these plans, they'll be open for folks to look at, but there's probably way too much detail for the.
When you buy an electronic, I generally don't go to that schematic that often, but it's good to know. All right, thanks.
So to manage this, this design, we have a pretty extensive process that we go through our quality assurance. We do individual discipline reviews to make sure that those 12 volumes all line up and they're talking together and we don't have gaps in it. So we're pulling these plans together and we're going to release them in stages. So obviously, Brooklyn Park, we were able to build on the plans that we originally had there. We were at 90% before, so able to take those plans and get them up to speed faster. So May timeframe is when we will be releasing these to Brooklyn Park for review, followed by Crystal in June, Robbinsdale in the Lowry Station area in July, and then Minneapolis, where there's quite a bit of things going on, will be that fourth package or fifth package released out there in that July-August timeframe. This is just for the civil work. What's shown on the very right-hand side is we will have other packages out there. We'll look at park and rides. We'll pull those out separate from the civil package. So those are more vertical construction, a little bit different construction to manage. The operations and maintenance facility is another one of those separate packages. And then what we're learning on a lot of these big packages is we pull the landscape out and we'll bid that separately because, after you plant a tree 4 years later, a lot of times the civil contractor is really not paying attention to it. So a better way to handle it is bring that out separately. So again, the next steps here are we'll deliver these out in a staggered schedule to our partners. We'll have 45 days. We'll offer 45 days for review and comment on those. During that time, we'll be working in our design resolution teams with our partners to make sure that we're communicating and addressing this. So, it's not like we just deliver it and say, here you go. We're working through them during that time frame. We'll continue to meet regularly with that design resolution teams for each city. And then these plans are what will help us as we get to this summer to prepare the scope and budget that will be pulled together for the project. So, and the plans after that are to advance to the 90% plans to be completed in early 2026.
Councilmember Chambliss, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I just had a question. I know that Brooklyn Park was already at 90% design many years ago. Is it possible to get a summary of what the community at that time expressed as their interest and concern as we're looking at the other corridors?
Chair, Councilmember Chambliss, yes, we can do that. We have all that information and we can pull that out.
Okay, thank you.
Chair?
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you, Chair. Nick, the reviewing partners, remind me who makes up those partners or that group?
Okay, Chair, Councilmember Wagner, the review partners are each city will review plans within their city. You know, the plans will be available, the full alignment to everybody, but you know, most cities are interested in what happens within their borders. Usually the cities are gonna have their public works or engineering divisions look at it as well as planning. So it's a pretty big effort for each one of these cities to go through and make sure that you know, we're picking up everything and our design is coordinated.
Thank you.
Chair, on top, maybe Councilmember Wagner, you were talking about this. That's on top or distinct from the design resolution team, right? The design resolution team, isn't that like one table, or is that, there's the review partners and then there's the, how you work through the points of difference or ideas?
So Chair, Commissioner Fernando, yes, many of the same folks that are in that DRT are actually probably most of the folks that are in the DRT are gonna be also doing review, but like, for instance, the city of Brooklyn Park, some folks that may not attend our DRTs might, you know, the utility folks usually don't regularly attend our resolution teams. It's usually the city engineer. So they'll have other folks that are more specialized reviewing plans also, so.
Right, yeah, Chair, so I just wanted to, like, I think adding on to what Councilmember Wagner was highlighting, each entity or jurisdiction or partner organization in whole gets to receive a packet, if you will. And then a parallel process is various jurisdictions working together to resolve items. So I think that is kind of a key
Helpful clarification.
aspect.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
I do have a question, and when you're done with this, do you bring it out to the community so they can vote on it again, or how does that work? Because do you get the community input on that?
Chair, committee members, yes, as we release the plans, we will continue to have public meetings. So we take the plans out to the public, you know, and still get their input on things. And so comments and suggestions and stuff are still taken. But you know, we hopefully that we're catching these now as we advance the plans and not so many big changes.
Okay.
Follow up, so are you doing continued public engagement as you're doing the 60% design?
Chair,
Up to
yeah, Chair
2025.
Committee, but yes, our community engagement is ongoing. It's going to continue through, and as we advance designs, that material comes out and, you know, for the public, so they're seeing us as we're starting to fill in the whole puzzle.
Any other questions at this point?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
With
Charles.
this design, where or how many parking rides and where are they gonna be located?
Chair, committee members, on this project, we have 2 dedicated park and rides for transit, so that are going to get built. There are 3 park and rides total. So Oak Grove Parkway up at the very north end of the project is one. There's an existing park and ride at 63rd, and then downtown Robbinsdale will have a park and ride in Transit Center in that location.
Okay.
All right. All right, we'll pass to the next chapter.
Every station was going to have a parking lot. I thought every station was going to have a parking lot. I guess I have a question before Nick leaves. I thought every station was going to have a park and ride. Sorry.
No, sorry.
Chair.
Go ahead.
And committee members. No, and every station does not have a park and ride. They're in located areas. And I forgot to mention Crystal will also have a park and ride.
Oh, that's what I had thought. Okay. Thank you.
Most important. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair, committee members. For our update related to Lowry Avenue Station, I want to ground us on where we began with this continued design coordination. In the processes related to municipal consent and the supplemental draft environmental impact statement last summer, the project received comments around that design concept presented in the preliminary design plans. And so that grounds us in our continued coordination to develop that Lowry Avenue station into a station that best meets the needs of the community and provides that transit access while continuing to work to resolve these concerns expressed by stakeholders. To go over kind of what those comments were that brought us into this continued design coordination process. The Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board expressed concerns around the at-grade crossing of the parkway with the light rail line, as well as impacts to park property. We also heard from North Memorial Hospital around concerns about how both emergency vehicles and private vehicles can reach the hospital due to a gated crossing at Lowry and Oakdale. We also heard from City of Minneapolis, echoing those concerns raised by the Minneapolis Park and Rec Board around the crossing, as well as North Memorial and how people reach the hospital, and asked that we continue to review that station design. The City of Minneapolis, or City of Robbinsdale, also echoed those concerns raised by North Memorial Hospital. In addition, we also heard concerns from community members around the gated crossings, access to the hospital, and impacts to the continuity of the parkway. So some recurring themes in what we heard about from our stakeholders as it relates to Lowry Station that led us into this continued design coordination. Starting last fall, we convened a stakeholder work group to continue evaluation of the design that was presented in the municipal consent design package and the supplemental draft environmental impact statement, and explore alternative design options. That stakeholder work group includes the staff from the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board, North Memorial Hospital, the cities of Minneapolis and Robbinsdale, as well as Hennepin County and Metro Transit. And through that continued design review process, we developed and evaluated 9 options in total, including the design that was presented in the supplemental draft environmental impact statement and municipal consent design package. So over the last 6 months, we've convened four workshops with that stakeholder work group. As I referenced, we developed additional design options for a total of 9 options that were evaluated. We held 2 public open houses with over 90 people attending between those 2 meetings. One was in Robbinsdale in December and a second meeting in Minneapolis in January. We also had an online survey going to continue to collect input around those design options that were developed and evaluated. To briefly summarize what we heard through that public engagement, and Ryan will walk us through those design options too. Most of the comments and opinions that we heard expressed were related to what we called in this engagement phase option A, which was the design presented in the municipal consent package that has the station at grade and does have that light rail and parkway crossing, as well as crossing at Lowry. We also heard a lot about another option that we'll talk to you all about in greater detail here today, option H, which maintains an at-grade station, but through some grade separation, we no longer in that design option have crossing of the parkway with the light rail infrastructure or Lowry Avenue. So we'll walk through that. These 2 options received a lot of interest and commentary from people coming to the meetings and as well as from our stakeholders. Related to that option H, we did hear mixed opinions about how people feel about that option does not have a direct connection between Lowry and the parkway, and so people had kind of mixed opinions on that. Some thought that was a good thing. Some think that that's a concern. And so that will be a continued issue of coordination if we do proceed with option H. So more to come on that topic. But overall concerns that we heard a lot about throughout the meetings are continued, expressed concern around gates at the Parkway and Lowry, concerns about construction, disturbance, duration, noise and vibration to the surrounding homes as well as the park, maintaining parkland, safety and security around the station, and traffic impacts on County Road 81 or Bottineau Boulevard. So that's a brief summary of what we heard in that process as it relates to this continued coordination for Lowry Station. Ryan will walk us through the design options.
Thank you, Kelsey. So the public work group that Kelsey mentioned, we went back to our goals. These goals were established back in 2021, but we refreshed those and found that they are very relevant to the work we started last summer. So provide transit access to park patrons, improve transit access to the hospital, increase transit service to adjacent neighborhoods, and provide a station design that integrates into surrounding park environment. Some achievable goals, but there's some challenges here that we'll see. So here are the 9 options. Upper left is that A option that was in the municipal consent drawing package, and also the option that was commented on in the SDIS. So that's sort of our baseline here. Then we looked at a slew of other options: tunnel, a trench, stations up at the West Broadway bridge level. We looked at putting the Parkway underneath everything. We looked at a giant flyover bridge. That was the design back in 2020. Other iterations of Parkway Trail going underneath things, and this option H, which is very similar to the option A that's our baseline, except for it doesn't have at-grade crossings of the light rail tracks and the Parkway and Lowry Avenue. So we will spend a little more time diving into that option H in a second. That option rose to the top because it addressed the most concerns that we heard in the SDAS and in the municipal consent resolutions from the cities. We used this matrix when we went out to the public. So you see the 9 options across the top. The 8 evaluation criteria, which stem from the SDAS comments and the municipal consent resolutions. Those quickly are station access, park impacts, access to the hospital, traffic operations in the general area, neighborhood connectivity with ped and bike, impacts to the Highway 81 bridges, constructability, and cost. So you'll see there that option A is all in yellow. That's the baseline that we're comparing these off of. So here's option A, just to remind everyone. You'll see light rails in the middle of the West Broadway Avenue and the bridges. The station itself is kind of nestled in between the northbound and southbound lanes. The Parkway swings off to the east, creating more parkland, kind of right in the middle of the screen. There's a slightly different view. You'll see a lot of similarities between these 2 views and the views we're about to see in option H. There are those gates. This is the Parkway looking north at how a gated intersection would be designed. So here's option H. Similar configuration with the Parkway light rails between West Broadway. And let me just run through a few of the elements here. In pink there, coming off the bottom of the page, is the Parkway. So that comes up, veers off to the east, goes underneath West Broadway, goes underneath light rail, goes underneath the other bridge of West Broadway, continues on, goes underneath Lowry Avenue, and continues north to Victor Memorial Parkway. We actually have very little impact on Victor Memorial Parkway itself. We just have a tie-in point with the new construction of that realigned parkway. You can see in the center of the screen, there's additional parkland created because we're actually expanding beyond the existing park boundaries with this option. Light rail, you can see, has in between West Broadway, like I mentioned, the station is at grade, and that's very important for us. That station is accessible by walking and biking. There's no stairs, no elevators. There is some sloping walkways going up to the hospital that you'll see, but there's a lot of eyes on this station compared to a station that would be elevated even at the bridge level of West Broadway, or some of the other options we looked at, tunnels, trenches, and what have you. Lowry Avenue coming on that right side of the page going towards the hospital, that's elevated up over the parkway. It goes to a new intersection with West Broadway that you can see near the top of the screen. So there's a new county-to-county intersection that replaces some of the on and off ramps that exist out there today. So this, again, eliminates gated crossings of the light rail and Lowry Avenue, creating an intersection to get to the hospital rather than gates. There's some other configurations with bike trails and sidewalks. One other thing to note, Washburn Avenue, which is on the far right side of this page, fronting some existing homes and a church. That road moves a little bit to the east. It's all within public right of way. It's about 20 feet to the east. Here's another view. You can see now the parkway shifting to the east there. Want to talk a little bit about traffic. So Kelsey mentioned the parkway is in this concept is not connected to either West Broadway or Lowry. What we found is the regional trips are using the parkway in this area. So folks on Highway 100 are coming off at Duluth, going down Golden Valley, using the parkway to get up to Lowry. So in the traffic parlance, we call that regional trips. So without it being connected to those roads, we see a distribution of traffic. We did notice some increase in traffic on 29th Street in Minneapolis. But largely, there's a pretty good grid system here where the traffic will disperse and find other routes. That's certainly something to dig in more should this concept advance further, but that's just some initial findings that we saw. Construction here, because there's more bridge work, we see another year of construction in this area. Now, we're at about 10% design, so we don't know exactly how that impacts the overall project. That'll happen in the future if this goes forward. But we are seeing more bridge construction here. And likewise, there is an approximate addition of $50 million to the project based on this concept.
Can you just clarify when you say it takes an additional year, but we don't know the effect on the overall project?
Right.
There could be construction happening in other places. It's a big project. So it's not like the overall project is going to take an additional year.
Correct.
It's just that this element, and we don't know yet.
Correct, exactly, because there's
I'm
lots
repeating you, but I just want to make sure I get it.
Sure, yes, that's exactly correct. Okay, here's some three-dimensional photorealistic, including some dandelions. Our team really goes over the edge here.
That's detailed.
So we're looking north here on the parkway. So you can see in the background, 3 bridges that I spoke about. The parkway goes underneath all 3 of those bridges, including the Grand Rounds bike trail and the pedestrian path as well. This is looking west. You can see the station. There's a LRV between the bridges in the center of the page. This is just getting off the platform looking towards the hospital. So that path in the background there is the closest access to the hospital. We're over on the Robbinsdale city line here looking northeast. Again, the station is represented by an LRV that's beyond that bridge pier. Again, you can see more of that larger park space created. Just going to compare these two side by side for just a second. They're very similar concepts. It's those intersections with the light rail that are the major difference here. At the lower yellow circle on option H is where those 3 bridges are. The parkway goes underneath. And then the upper circle is that new intersection between Lowry, Oakdale, and West Broadway, getting over light rail tracks there as well.
Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a question. You had mentioned, can you go back to one slide? You mentioned, and I must have not caught this previously, no access from Lowry to the parkway. You mean like vehicular or like stairs? What was the What's the net you're discussing, that you highlighted previously?
Yes, apologies, I did not, Chair, members. It's vehicular access. There's
Okay.
ample pedestrian and bicycle connections from Lowry down to this area, which is also something we need to continue to advance in the design phase, but it's the vehicle access that's not connected.
So then maybe as this option, should it further get clarified? Because there would be access like within half a mile. So, I mean, I just want to, like, no access in the like 500-foot range is different than
No access.
1 mile. Yeah, so I mean, because in this area, right, it's like kind of this way-ish. Yeah, I would imagine like within the quarter mile, probably there'd be access to the parkway, but maybe not. I'm not trying to make guesses. I would just encourage, it's not no access and access, it's like proximity to access maybe for vehicles. And with the traffic dispersion anyway, there would be a different kind of traffic pattern or wayfinding for vehicles anyway. Am I
Chair
like
members,
understanding correctly?
exactly correct. It's
Okay.
a couple of blocks to the next access point at 29th and at 34th to the north.
Yeah, so I'm highlighting that because I'm not here to weigh in on it. I know that's not the purpose today. It's meant to be informed. But based off of the feedback that was provided on slide 17, the at-grade and physically crossing, especially with like a broader kind of towards zero deaths, et cetera, we eventually might have get to weigh in on, what are we prioritizing? And a vehicle having to like add a minute is different than a person having to add, 10 minutes to their walk or something. Like, I don't know if I'm making sense. We can move on.
No, you
But
are.
I want to just make sure that both of those aspects are incorporated in future considerations.
Chair, hand it back over.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just could you provide like maybe like a brief distinction between like A and H when it comes to the timeline, high level, like what is the different, why is it taking an extra year? And when I look at this, it kind of seems like there's, major grade changes compared to option A, but it's just a picture, I don't know. So do you have a sense on why it would take longer?
Yes, Chair and members, it's a good question. So largely it's bridge construction. In this option H concept, we remove and replace 2 bridges, modify 1 bridge, and add 2 bridges. So there's 5 bridges in the play with this option, which it takes so long to build a bridge.
Yes.
You can't expedite that so frequently. That's the major.
And I should add, with like the weight that needs to be on these bridges, because it's a county road and has certain kind of weight requirement. That's what somebody told me, at least, so.
They're more robust bridges than,
Yeah, that's what I was
parkways.
told, yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just out of curiosity, these options are already made public. Has there been any like community input, comments given back on which option they prefer?
Chair, committee members, the options A and H tended to be kind of the front runners. I think option H, certainly we've heard positive feedback from the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board, and the reaction to option H has generally been fairly positive. Again, that lack of direct vehicular connection right at Lowry and the Parkway had kind of mixed opinions expressed, but in that option H has had positive feedback from community members.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful to know. Considering I'm from Brooklyn Park, I'm not familiar with the Lowry Station, but I was wondering as well, the surrounding, is it like surrounding businesses around there? Have they given any input as well too? Like, are they in like do they like option H as well too? And is that also with the disclosure that if option H does pull through, that there's gonna be that additional 1 year? Does that kind of make sense?
Chair, committee members, our primary, business that we've been hearing a lot from is North Memorial Hospital. We haven't maybe been hearing quite as much from businesses in the area. And there are businesses located along Lowry Avenue and of course, further up and down along West Broadway. I think most of the people attending our public engagement meetings have been residents of the neighborhoods surrounding. And yes, we have been highlighting that longer construction duration in our public outreach materials. So that's been out there.
Thank you.
And I think your point is that a year longer is more disruption for
Yes.
neighboring businesses, which is a consideration. Yeah. Any other questions, thoughts where we are now? Go ahead.
Can I ask a question on the Brooklyn Boulevard stop?
Sure.
So for Maple Grove Transit, coming from the west, at some point, we'd like to hook up with local fixed route and micro transit vehicles. Will that stop allow that to kind of seamlessly happen? Or will it be cumbersome?
Chair, members, that's a good point to bring up now. We are rebuilding part of Brooklyn Boulevard as it gets to West Broadway there. We should look at that in more detail.
We definitely would love to hook up some all-day service. And for sure, micro transit is really exploding too, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions, thoughts? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just add a comment. I just want to say thank you for taking all the community feedback. I live in the neighborhood that's just south of North Memorial, and so it was cool to see all the intentionality, I suppose, of the feedback and taking that into consideration. I think, speaking to council member from Brooklyn Park, the crossings were like a big concern for the hospital, and so I think that's kind of was the big motivation behind option H, in which I was excited to see that, and so just wanted to share those sentiments.
Yeah, and Charles, I don't know if you want to say anything from the park board perspective. We know it's been fully considered, and we appreciate that you've been partners.
Well, yeah, I can make a comment or questions. We just had our meeting February 5th. Same presentation. H would be the better option, but there's still concerns about pretty much the flyover on Lowry not having access with vehicles. That's coming from my other hat as a commissioner. My other hat as being a firefighter, every second counts. And we have a lot of crime that's going on over in North Minneapolis. We go to North Memorial a lot. We're coming down Lowry, so now we're gonna have to bypass instead of going directly to the hospital. So that's a concern. Another concern is I spoke to residents from the east of Lowry about access as well. It seems like they're talking about they're gonna have to drive through just to get over to the hospital and things like that. But if you can correct me, if they live on Lowry and Sheridan, are they gonna have to, like you said, there's no vehicle access to the parkway or anything, right? Because that's how they get to the, Lowry passes the parkway to get to the hospital.
So, Chair, members, so Lowry will be connected directly into the hospital like it is
Okay.
today. It's just raised up.
Okay.
So I know those north-south streets can get to Lowry and
Okay.
then get over.
Well, that's one of, they didn't really have the information, so they wanted to make sure, and everybody's talking about the hospital. We're even at the fire station talking about, well, how are we gonna access the hospital and things like that. So it is a major concern when it comes to our emergency vehicle.
Yeah, go ahead, Suzanne.
Well, I was just looking at the slide for next steps that was coming up, dovetailing off a lot of your own concerns. And the city of Minneapolis doesn't sit on the project decision board, but really glad a lot of the public engagement is going to be ongoing. I think that's a theme you've heard from a lot of folks here. The city doesn't object to advancing option H. It seems like that gives a lot of broad width for discussion to continue on a lot of different project elements. It would be helpful to have something from the project office that detailed a little bit more of timeline on ongoing public engagement and the decision-making process as we go through the 60% design process and the final environmental impact statement. Like you said, we have a lot of concerns as well about what happens to this vehicular traffic on Lowry Avenue and additional connections for transit users, bikes, peds, so on and so forth. But I mean, Object H is a great step, right? It resolves a lot of the city's concerns with what was presented in the municipal consent package, so.
Thank you, and thank you for these comments. It is a puzzle. Neither one alternative is perfect, but it shows that once you're gravitating toward one, you continue to keep working to solve those issues. Any other thoughts, comments? All right, thank you, Kelsey and Ryan. I think we're going to hear a little bit about schedule. Is that correct, or do you have more?
Well, Chair, we've touched on some of these elements on this slide already, but just to note that we are planning to come to the project decision board, which includes Metropolitan Council and Hennepin County policymakers next week, seeking design direction on which station option should continue in that continued development, and including additional public engagement around that station option. And as I touched on earlier, we do have additional steps ahead of us on Section 4F and Section 106 consultation processes, and we look forward to continuing the conversation with the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board around mitigation for the option that advances. Back to you, Chair.
Great, thanks. Any other questions? Last chance. Go ahead, Eva.
Just for clarification, can you elaborate on the context of the 4F concurrence and the 106 consultation?
Yes, Mr. Chair and Councilmember Chambliss. Our Section 4F specific next steps are dependent on the option, but we will be working both with the Federal Transit Administration to determine what does that Section 4F pathway want to be, as well as continued coordination with the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board in order to seek that concurrence. So a specific determination has not yet been made on that.
Great. With that, we're going to get a little update from Shaheen on the schedule. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair and council members. Let's go to the next. Oh, I have it right here. Thank you. So we are indeed on the project side moving forward full speed, and with that, it means we've got a very busy year ahead of us. As a reminder, we for 2025 have restructured our CMC schedule and frequency to better align with some of the key decisions and deliverables that we will be bringing to this body for updates and discussions. So our next meeting being on next CMC, that is in April, will focus again on some more design and environmental updates, as we'll be in the middle of some of these tasks here in this year. And in July, as you can see, that aligns well with, as Kelsey mentioned, when we hope to have the supplemental final environmental impact statement fully reviewed and published, and also we'll be quite deep in our 60% design development, and with that, our updated 60% cost and ridership estimates that we would like to bring forth at that July CMC meeting. And alongside that, design will continue to proceed. As you heard from Nick earlier, we're going to, from May to August, have that staggered deliverables for each city, and that 60% design documents that will then be share it with our city and community stakeholders for reviews. And that will go until August, and hopefully from there we can transition into 90% design development. And then for us to hopefully be able to share some more updates around design at the October CMC, with then the November CMC focusing on our look ahead on project delivery and kind of the next steps for 2026. Alongside design, we've got the FTA coordination, the rating submittal that right now we are shooting for August, which is currently the deadline for that 2025 FTA submittal for the CIG program. And we will continue to coordinate around the anti-displacement activities as well as it pertains to this project. So we'll continue coordination around the environmental and cultural placekeeping elements that we can then hopefully build into and incorporate into our design in the 60 and 90% phases. And it goes without saying, but throughout this entire process, public engagement is a key element. So that's why we have one solid bar. There will be, as we reach each milestone, we'll continue to coordinate with our city partners, our state and federal partners, as well as the community to exchange feedback and receive feedback on our progress.
Okay. Any questions?
I have one. And what about, does this timeline align with the funding timeline too?
The funding timeline, so as of now, we are still moving forward with what we know. And that FTA rating submittal, right now, the August 2025 submittal is what we are working towards. As you know, we will continue to monitor and have our finger on the pulse on things, but with it being so early in the year, with us still learning so much, we can't speculate on how we're proceeding. We can just proceed with what we have available. And what we want to have is to make sure we are ready and prepared based on what we learn.
That's a lot of activity in month by month.
Indeed.
Okay. All right, any other thoughts, questions? Missed anything? All right, we've covered a lot of material, and as it develops, we appreciate your ongoing engagement, and as we've talked about a number of times today, we're going to continue to put this out in public forums. So as you hear from others, you can certainly report back to the project or Hennepin County or Met Council. We are meeting as a project decision board, so we appreciate that interest. Having said that, I think our next meeting is scheduled for April. It'll be another sunny day in April, and I'm sure. So until then, we look forward to seeing everybody. This meeting is adjourned. Early, you have 20 minutes to your day.
I can't come next week.